Okay, Nick and Andy, Euro 2024 has reached the last 16 stage. Let's preview these games coming up, give our score predictions, see who's going to make it through to the quarterfinal. So we got the bracket. Let's go through all the games, starting from the top, going all the way down. So obviously Germany against Denmark, the hosts, looking pretty good so far, pretty solid. Denmark, very solid in the group stage, not spectacular. Nick, Germany are the bookies' favourites. Are we all going for Germany here? Do you think there's going to be an upset?
I don't know. You tend to vote for the home team, right? You think about that happening. I like the idea of Denmark, despite that dour entire group that you guys had over there. So I expect Germany to win. If you force me to pick Germany to win, but there are far more clear-cut fixtures that I see in this bracket than that one. I think Germany's looked very good, but Denmark has the capability of doing just about anything. And I think the fact that they haven't been at their best yet, sometimes I feel like that happens every tournament. Somebody just kind of hits that peak at this time. And I know, Joe, you must be hoping for that as well for England. So
True, but I think Denmark, you're right. They have the ability to just make this very horrible for Germany. Andy, you're right. I mean, like 3-5-2, just stifling teams. We've seen this so many times with Denmark in this tournament. And Germany, obviously, Jonathan Tah being out for this game, maybe defensively might have a few more questions asked them, like we saw against Switzerland. They caused them quite a few problems in that final group stage game. But I think if they click and attack in midfield, Germany should take care of business. So I think I was going to say like a 2-1 win to Germany seems about right.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. That's the thing about tournament football is some of the teams that we talked about going into the tournament were some of the most disappointing during the group stage. Germany, who we didn't quite know what to make of coming into the tournament, were one of the most impressive teams in the group stage. But does that matter? Once we get into the knockout rounds, it doesn't really. It's about what you do in those 4 games. And so everybody gets a bit of a new life once you get out of the group stage. And I would just like to submit this to you guys. Can we make Denmark the new Croatia of international tournaments? It feels like they have risen to a level of consistency and performance, and you know exactly what you're going to get from them every single time, that they are now part of the furniture at these major tournaments, especially the European Championships.
Yeah, they've done a great job with developing all the talent there and having a very clear, structured style of play. And yeah, fair play to them up. I think Germany are going to have a little bit too much for them going forward in this last 16 game. All right, Switzerland against Italy. Nick, Italy have been struggling a little bit. Switzerland probably overachieved so far in this tournament. I've actually gone for Switzerland to win this game 2-1 against Italy, which is a bit of an upset. The bookies do favour Italy, but from what I've seen so far, this Italian side, a lot of young players, so many different changes so far from Spalletti in the lineup. It seems like Italy will hang in there, but I'm just not confident they're going to score enough goals to actually get themselves quite far in this tournament. Am I being a bit too negative in Italy here?
No, I just don't know that they're going to give up goals. And
True.
Gigi Donnarumma had a brilliant game, at least one brilliant game in the tournament, but there's one in particular. I just have this feeling that this is one of those games that goes to penalties, and anybody can win there because there's a couple really good keepers there. If you told me someone was going to win in regulation, I might say Switzerland. There's a bit of a vibes team there, but I think on the whole, what do you guys say over there? Tournament nous and Gliazzurri, right? I think this could be it.
But Switzerland have a lot of that tournament now, it feels like. You look through Xhaka, Sommer, Akanji, obviously Shaqiri, Rodriguez. These are guys that have been around for so many tournaments now and just kind of know how to grind it out. Andy, are you going with Switzerland or Italy? What are you doing? This is really close. These first 2 games are really, really close.
Yeah, I think this is the tightest one of all of the 8 in the round of 16, and it's so interesting that it involves the reigning defending champions of the competition as well, that we have this many questions this early on. But, like we kind of have alluded to already, France and England we have questions about, Italy we have questions about. It's been a very surprising tournament. I've been I've been incredibly impressed with what Switzerland have done at this tournament. Tournament analysis is the perfect way to describe it. They're great defensively, but they're really good on the counter. And I think that's maybe this thing that separates them and gives them just a little bit more of a ceiling maybe than a Denmark, because they've got a couple players up top, and Mbolo has looked good in the minutes that he's been able to play and rounding back into form coming off of a major injury. And so I think they have a lot more of a chance than you might look at it on paper. I think I might actually go with them as well, Joe, probably in penalty kicks.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight one. Really looking forward to that game. I'm maybe not looking forward to England against Slovakia. I'm just going to say that as an England fan, it's been pretty dreadful so far in this tournament. But Nick, this seems like it's going to be a very similar game for England to the games they've already had against Slovenia, Serbia, Denmark. I still don't know they have this spark. It's missing. It's nowhere. Foden, Saka, Kane, Bellingham either look tired or just not clicking, right? So I would love to see something bold from Gareth Southgate and Cole Palmer come into the lineup, Kobbie Mainoo, Anthony Gordon. And I think maybe some of these big name players probably need a rest and need to be saved from themselves. But I can't see it happening. But I still think England just probably get it done. But Slovakia, I've been very, very dogged, I would say, throughout this tournament and just hanging in there. Big experience as well with Skriniar, Dubravka. Lobotka's been excellent in midfield for them as well. So this is no easy game for England, but probably just about favour the Three Lions.
Joe, I would like to tell you about this book I've read several times before. And what it is a disappointing England group stage, a resurgent round of 16 or quarterfinal moment where they get it because Cole Palmer plays and he is the new talisman. Then they squeak by somebody in the quarterfinal and everybody says this is all going to happen for them. And then eventually massive disappointment. So I'd like to congratulate you on this win as well as the quarterfinal win. And I'm sorry about what happens in the semifinals or final.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've already prepared myself mentally for that. But England are on the easier side of the bracket.
Yeah, I think they win this unless Dubravka, who is really underrated. I mean, very good when he had to fill in for Pope, Newcastle mainstay. I've watched him a lot. I think he can keep them in this game and maybe keep it close, but I also wouldn't be surprised at like a 3-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 to England. Andy, agree with that?
With the result, yes. All the points, too. I guess I would quickly throw a question back to you, Joe, is how much of these struggles is Gareth Southgate's tactics and limiting those incredible world-class players and not maybe putting them in the best system to perform individually or collectively?
A little bit. I think the holding midfielders having two of those every game probably doesn't help with the creativity and overloading situations. And you could probably do without that and just leave Declan Rice there on his own and maybe bring in Cole Palmer alongside Bellingham and just have or tuck Foden inside and have a lot more creativity there. Because you're facing teams who are just going to be in a low block, happy enough to put 10 players behind the ball. So I'd love to see that. I think it's probably 50-50 Southgate's tactics. And I think a lot of the big name players just haven't shown up yet for various reasons, like struggling with injuries late in the season and just not quite clicking, which happens in football. But we know there's a lot of scrutiny on this England team. So let's see how they get on. But I think they've just about got enough to get past Slovakia. Spain against Georgia, Nick Mendola. Probably the best team in the tournament so far against the most surprising team in the tournament so far. Georgia, very good value, beat Portugal 2-0 to make the last 16. A great story in their first ever Euros and everything that's going on in Georgia. But all signs here point towards Spain absolutely hammering them by 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Spain didn't have the quarterfinal against potentially Germany in Germany, I feel like you would pencil in a huge Spain-France semifinal right now. As good as all the other teams are, Spain and Germany have at times, when they've been at their best, when you talk about Portugal had a moment when they were at their best, Germany's had games when they're at their best, same thing for Spain. I think those are the 3 best performers on the whole. Austria, probably a wild card there. But yeah, it's harsh for Georgia, but they're also maybe a little bit of a happy to be there vibe. If it goes wrong early, and I expect Spain to be ready to fly out of the traps. So I like Spain here, and I love the Georgia story. It's hard not to.
Oh, 100%. Andy, France against Belgium. These are two teams who know each other extremely well. Obviously, France, one of the pre-tournament favourites, but they haven't looked great. Belgium haven't looked great either. Their fans and their players are getting booed off the pitch, even though they made the last 16. So, two teams who've underperformed. And I had this go into penalty kicks. I think this is going to be a really tight, kind of horrible game. But what do you think, mate?
It all depends on France. Do they come out and is it? I mean, where's the psyche at for France at this point because of the expectations coming into this tournament? It wasn't just that they would win or that they would be the best team there. It was that it would look a certain way and that this was going to be the dawn of a new era. I think we talked about it last time that we recorded. Was this the year of Mbappe, and this is going to be the year that he kind of takes over the world, and we're just waiting to see it. And obviously, there's still plenty of time for that to happen in the quarterfinals, and there's multiple levels that they can and need to go up. But I don't know. Belgium going to give them a tough fight, I think, because this is, for all intents and purposes, like the end of that generation. I think probably collectively one or two might hang on beyond this tournament, but this is going to be the last stand for some of those players that have been the golden generation. And maybe, just maybe, that should be a little bit of a word of warning to U.S. men's national team fans that just because you have that generation, it doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to.
Yeah, I actually have Belgium winning on penalty kicks. I've gone for a bit of an upset here. I don't really like what I've seen from France so far. I think that they've created some decent chances, but they haven't been clinical enough. And yeah, they've been all right defensively. But I could just see this being a really, really nervous, edgy game between, again, two groups of players that know each other really well. I don't know, Nick, you agree with that? France heading out, that would be quite a surprise. But I don't know, mate. I could just... something about this French team where I'm not quite sure about them at the moment.
It's true, but I also feel like we are on the verge of, or just waiting for that Mbappe game, and maybe it's a ship I need to sink with, given what I said before the tournament. But between him and I would expect Griezmann to come back into the lineup and play inspired after being dropped for Barcola, arguably dropped for Barcola. So I tend to think France will find a way, but I do think it could be close, and I think there could be a 3-2 here. No problem, because I have enjoyed Belgium, and I mean, Lukaku loves a tournament.
Yeah, he does. De Bruyne as well. He's got this is, like Andy said, one of their final chances really as a group here to do something special. Portugal against Slovenia. Andy, I mean, Slovenia solid against England in the group stages. They were just robust. Portugal can be, I think they have moments, right, in games where they can blow you away, but they can also give up big chances. We saw that defeat against Georgia. Obviously, a lot of changes they made to the lineup, but seems like a pretty straightforward 2-0 win to Portugal, this one.
In this round, yes. I have big questions about exactly what you mentioned there, giving up chances on the counter. You've got, 41-year-old Pepe still back there playing just about every minute of this. And all the credit in the world to him. Yeah. What an incredible accomplishment. It's amazing to see. But we're also talking about a team that we think could win this competition in the year 2024. And so maybe there should be another center back coming along to play alongside Ruben Diaz. Obviously, we love the midfield talent, the attacking talent. It's going to be I think it's going to be the defensive half that's going to make or break their tournament. They won't have too much trouble in this one, but I do think being on that half of the bracket, there's a lot of teams that are not going to come out of there that we're going to think, wow, they probably deserved a little bit more from this tournament.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think Portugal are really interesting, and the Netherlands are really interesting as well. And they face Romania, who have, like Austria, like Georgia, very good story here in terms of a team we probably didn't think were going to make the last 16, but have really entertained. But the Netherlands have entertained as well. Again, like I said with Portugal, Nick, in spells, right, in stages of games, Depay, Gakpo have looked really good. Simons as well. Like, they're decent, but they also probably give up a lot of chances as well under Ronald Koeman, and maybe not as solid as we've seen in previous years. So I think the Netherlands probably get through by 1 goal, but this has the potential to be quite an open, entertaining game against Romania. Yeah,
especially the saddest group table of all time. 4 points, 4 points, 4 points, 4 points. And if you had Ukraine making a deep run as the dark horse, you're especially bummed by that. look, Romania can fight, and you would not. No one's going to say, and this is probably the strongest thing that you could say. No one's going to say, "Well, this is a walkover," right? This is and even though this could be a happy to be here team, but there's just a lot of names here that kind of sneak up on you, and guys you have watched play and maybe didn't even realize how deep Romania was. And there's also a contingent of players domestically who have good experience. So probably closer than we expect. But I think I've said this in every game I've commented on. The Dutch do seem like a team that could explode at any moment in a positive way.
Oh, 100%. So I'm going with them as well. I think, 2-1, something like that seems about right to the Netherlands. Andy, Austria against Turkey, the final last 16 game. Austria have been good, right? We thought they might do something in this tournament, but they've exceeded those expectations of the Ralf Rangnick with the high pressing. It's made it very hard for teams to get any kind of foothold in games. Yeah. And Turkey have been fantastic in stages as well. And some of their play has been sensational. Obviously, some big absentees for this game with Çalhanoğlu missing out on midfield through suspension. Obviously, that's going to hurt them big time. But I don't know. This is a hard one to call as well. I think we said this quite a lot in this segment here today.
I want it to be hard to call, but I think the Çalhanoğlu suspension is just going to be kind of one of those debilitating losses.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been at the center of everything they've done in this tournament, and I mean, I think you could make a case, and obviously they would have to make a pretty deep run in the knockout rounds, but he would be in a conversation for like a tournament of maybe not a player of the tournament, but certainly in a best 11. For Euro 2024 so far. He's been that good. And so missing him and going up against an Austria team who, again, that is the formula internationally. If you're rock solid at the back and you're confident on the counterattack and you've got people that can stretch the field, you're going to have success internationally. And Ralf Rangnick doing this after his stint as interim Manchester United, I didn't have that on my card at any point. So, good for him.
Yeah. Austria 2-1, something like that. That's what we'll say with that. All right. So that was our predictions for the last 16. Final quick question. Nick, have you changed your mind on who you think is going to win it?
No. I don't like the way that France has looked at all, but there's just so much talent there. We haven't had an Mbappe game. We've hardly had a Griezmann game. The midfield, Conte has been roll back the years, as you say, their best player on the whole, but I'm just going to stick with them. I think you could make an argument for 12 of the 16 teams, but I'm going to stick with France.
Andy?
Yeah, there's 5 or 6, 7 teams maybe that can really win this, and there's a dozen teams that could go to the semifinals or final. Anybody that says they know is lying, but I'll stick with France as well, just because of everything that I said before the tournament, the talent, the experience, the expectations, the legacy that's on the line for a lot of players as well.
Yeah. I'm sticking with Spain. I'm feeling pretty smug about that pick because they've looked pretty good, but also I'm not sure they've really been tested yet because Italy and Croatia were not the teams that we expected them to be. So I'm excited to see Spain later on in the tournament. I think they'll get through this round and then we'll really find out just how good they are. But they've looked the best team for me at this tournament so far. So let's see what happens. That's our preview and predictions for the last 16. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest from what's been a brilliant tournament in Germany so far. And the knockout rounds are only just kicking off.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.